Welcome to Now Boarded.
Righty, here we go. Now boarded. Welcome to our latest podcast. This is going to be fun. This is my mate Stu from G Adventures. He's an Aussie. I know all about these £10 poms and all that sort of stuff. I've learned all that on the previous one. But we're here today. Listen, we're going to be talking about fantastic business, fantastic holiday experience, if that's the best way of describing it, with G Adventures. I'm very keen to learn a lot more about G, because it's something that, I mean, I know the guys have asked me to go and experience it, both me and Paula, and didn't know enough about it. So I've been doing a bit of research, and it looks really interesting. But I suppose you're going to kick it off. I mean, it wasn't originally called, well, it was G Adventures, but it stood for GAP, didn't it?
It did.
Back in its day.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. It's good to be here. We were GAP Adventures, which stood for Great Adventure People. And through a number of circumstances, we moved away from that and became G Adventures.
It was all about young people.
Well, yeah, there was a perception, like gap year.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I mean, yeah.
And I think people still take gap years. I don't know if they call them that. But there was that perception perhaps that it was for the young. But as we'll talk about, there's a trip for everyone from 8 to 108.
Did you do a gap year?
No, not per se.
No, I didn't either.
No.
I came out of school, got my shirt signed, and then I legged it out of the doors on a Friday, and I was at work at 9 o'clock on Monday morning.
Yeah?
All my mates went off doing the Gap stuff.
Yeah.
They went around Europe on trains and all this, which is, I guess, what G Adventures was probably designed for at the time.
Yeah, initially it was for, so our founder 35 years ago, Bruce Poon Tip, didn't have a penny to his name, didn't come from money, anything like that. Realised there was a world between escorted touring and backpacking, and there's kind of this sweet spot, and he was right there at the right time to create that. So you're looking at around, 12 people on a trip, and not more than 16. And if I said to someone, "Oh, would you like to do a tour? Would you like to do a tour somewhere?" This image pops up in your mind, and you think, "Okay, this might be 50 people on a coach." And there's many different types of touring in there for many different customers, but the sweet spot we were looking for was that smaller group, so you don't feel like it's a big group. You're traveling with a bunch of mates.
And it's not changed, has it? I mean, the one thing that's changed is you've moved from GAP to G, which I guess is more inclusive. You're talking about families, and we can talk about that a little bit later on because you've got great experience there. But it's just about that growth of inclusion, isn't it? And this sweet spot, I guess that enables you to pick the tours that will go on certain times of the year that are right for that destination. It's not like you've got a tour in a brochure and it runs 52 weeks a year. That doesn't happen, does it?
Well,
really?
Yeah, look at it.
Well, there is a great mixture, isn't there?
Exactly. And, a recent example would be we have a new family trip in Norway. And so that runs at one time of the year with one itinerary.
Yep.
And then we tweak it in the summer. Same with Iceland. In Iceland, you want to go trekking in the summer because the sun doesn't go down. You probably don't want to be out walking quite so much in the winter. That's when you do the Northern Lights.
Well, we had a little conversation about Northern Lights earlier today, actually. So it's funny you should talk about that. But what is it that makes you? I mean, why did you join G Adventures? I mean, there must be something in there that makes you want to join a business like this that is so focused on, I guess, sustainability is a big thing, environment.
Yep.
We've talked about that inclusivity, but giving something back as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how much time we've got, Phil.
No, we've got plenty of time. Don't worry about that.
But, I grew up in Australia. I grew up in a lot of small towns, travelled around, lived on Lord Howe Island, tiny little island between Australia.
Where?
It's called Lord Howe Island.
Lord Howe Island?
Yeah. It's between Australia and New Zealand, almost equidistant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where's that in relation to Tasmania?
A lot further north. So you come in from Newcastle or Sydney and fly east, and you get to this tiny island. So, I was travelling as a child and then just was reading all the travel magazines, all the brochures back in the day. I'd love to go there. And then my first solo trip, funny enough, was to leave the country, go to Nepal. My parents were bawling their eyes out. Don't go. And I did an escorted tour, funny enough. Blew my mind arriving in Nepal, having never been anywhere like that.
Yeah.
And just seeing how the real world lives, seeing the reality of life. And And then, so did a bit of travel myself, done lots of different adventures, like driving the length of India in a rickshaw from bottom to top.
In a rickshaw?
Yeah, in an auto rickshaw.
Hey, you know what? I had a drag race in a...
I did.
I went to we went to Thailand with some friends, actually. Julie works in the business, and her husband, Richard, who runs Blackpool Eliminations, actually. And we had a couple of rickshaws, and we give the guys a few, whatever the word, Thai bahts.
Oh, yeah.
I said, go on, that's something. It was actually one of the worst decisions I've ever made in my life. Because we could have killed ourselves, because they actually took it literally.
Really?
And they were both racing. Oh, my good grief.
But did you win?
I can't remember, because I think I had my eyes closed most of the time.
Oh, very good. But yeah, then found my way into the travel industry, and then found my way to G Adventures, which is a little over 12 years ago now. And, the other day our MD asked us what gets us up in the morning. And we're doing a strategy day. So what gets you up in the morning? And I said, well, I love the product. I love the team. And there's an extra purpose to the product, which we'll talk about, is, we truly believe that travel can and does change the world. And that depends how you travel. And when you travel in certain ways, you have a positive impact on the world. And that really makes you feel, right, if I'm traveling, I'm having a great time, but also improving the lives of the people I visit. And that's not giving handouts either. That's just through the accommodation, using local accommodation, local restaurants. Look, we all love a McDonald's if we've had a rough day. And if you're in destination and you're sick of the local food, fair enough. Maybe you want some comfort food. But we're not going to frequent those kind of places. We're going to help you see the destination.
It's that whole, I was reading up actually about that whole ethos, that purpose, people and planet. Yep. The 3 Ps, and we've also talked previously to somebody else about, buying local food. So locally grown food, eating locally grown. And that's the way you actually try and sustain some of these economies and keep employment and jobs in some of these places that you go to. It's really important.
Oh, absolutely.
You must see that all the time.
Oh, we do. Yeah. And look, there's many different approaches to travel and to sustainability. There's green travel. There's all these different types. Where we land is community tourism.
Yeah.
So if we can have a positive impact on the communities we visit, that improves our community as G Adventures, our community with our travelers. And ultimately, I think one of my team said it really well the other day. We want you to come back from a country and not feel like you have to go back. And I thought, you know what? And I think it was Anthony who said that. So I thought, you know what? That's a really good analogy. We would love people to go back. But if you feel like you went and saw a country and thought, you know what? I tried the food. I met some local people. I saw the sights. Well done. I've done that.
Because at the end of the day, you want people to go and experience all these different countries, and these different cultures. And we've got, it's just so many people in our business have that same ethos. And they're very excited about, I never thought about it like that you don't really want to go back because actually you've not been in a 5-star hotel, you've not been ferried around, in private limousines, etc., etc. You've actually been and met off the beaten track, if you want to coin a phrase, and seen how people live, and what makes them tick, what makes that place so special as well.
Yeah, and look, you could say the world's really connected these days. You could say the world's really divided. Probably depends if you're a glass half full, glass half empty. But look, the more we meet people from around the world and see their cultures, the more that we learn about them. And it can still be a cracking holiday, I should say. We're not talking about compromise. We're talking about having a fantastic holiday. We've got NPS scores through the roof, 76, 78. NPS, Net Promoter Score. Okay. So it's kind of a globally recognized score that, Apple and Starbucks and will use. And that's how you evaluate. The core question is, would you recommend this product to another person?
Yes.
And so that is, without going into all the depths of the scores, we're getting the right scores. People are really happy with the trips.
You see, I had a quick look through G Online, and I looked at probably my profile. Okay, so someone like me, getting older, 58 years old, bit of a dicky ticker, don't want to be climbing mountains. I want to know exactly what it is I'm in for, how long I'm traveling between each place, what walking is involved. It's very comprehensive. How do you keep that up to date so that people who come and talk to us at the Travel Village say, look, I want to go and see a destination. We go, right, you need to go to come in G Adventures. how do you keep that information up to date where we can say, look, this tour would be great, that tour maybe is a bit too much, or whatever, or you can miss that bit out? How you must have people on the ground.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is a mission. So we've just surpassed 1,000 trips on offer.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. So 1,025, I think we've got, in over 100 countries. So options, there's no shortage of options.
Yeah.
And then we have to put those into buckets. So we put them into styles. So we've got the 18 to 39-year-old bucket. That's 18 to 30-somethings. I'm too old for that now. But, that might be, that's hostels and 2-star hotels. It's the right price point. Might be like £40 a day in Asia. Yeah. For your guy. Yeah. Like incredibly good value. But then the core of our product would be classic. I don't really like talking about star ratings, but probably more like a 3-star.
Yep.
And you'd be surprised at the average age for that. That's 42.
Really?
On that product. Yeah. And then we've got things like the National Geographic exclusive partnership, which is more of a 4-star. Got the National Geographic branding, of course, and so they sign everything off as well.
So listen, it's interesting that, because I did notice that on selected tours. What's the difference there? What is it you get if you book a National Geographic?
Yeah, so National Geographic would have extra inclusions from the likes of National Geographic. So because they're such a gigantic business, I think 137 years they've been going for.
Yeah, it's a while.
So yeah, it is. Yeah, a bit longer than us so far. So yeah, look, they unlock doors for us, access to experts, access to different venues, things like that. I mean, primarily it will be the accommodation standard. It'll be the amount of included meals, transfers. We might be more likely to take a flight rather than an overnight train, just because we're targeting that trip to be a bit more comfortable, and that will appeal to people of a certain demographic. But it can also just be an 18-year-old that wants to go and have a really comfortable trip. Yeah, a bit more comfortable in terms of accommodation than the others.
So let's talk about some myths before we go into personal experiences. And, there's so many out there. Whichever aspect of travel you talk about, there's always a myth that needs dispelling. So what's these myths about tours about, like you said, you've probably touched on the fact that they're not loads and loads of people. I guess it tends to be like-minded people you'll be with. But are there any myths that you want to think you can dispel for our listeners?
Yeah. I mean, from the outset, I know our name doesn't do us any service sometimes when it's G Adventures.
Yeah.
Because the challenge there is adventure is different to everyone. The example I used to give is adventure is going shopping the day before Christmas. On a weekday, you're like, oh God, I've left it to the last minute. This is going to be a challenge. Adventure for someone is leaving the house. That could be a real challenge for someone, but adventure for someone else is Everest. So adventure is just such a triggering word for a lot of people that, think of it like an experience. These are different experiences around the world. We call them adventures. You might call them experiences. And I mean, one of the other big myths is that it sits with any age demographic. So, I mean, look, I've been doing this job for 12 years. I've had lots of people say, we don't have young customers, right? Or, I'm a young customer. I'm an older customer. This doesn't suit me. I'm not 20 backpacking. Right, that's fine. We've got such a broad range over all these trips and all these styles. As I said before, we've got something from 8 to 108. So it's the mindset of the traveler to go and want to see the world, see a country. Look, I mean, one of our trips is Maldives sailing. That's adventurous to some,
yes,
but it's just you're sailing around on a boat, swimming every day. It's not climbing a mountain. So, yeah, there's all these different types of adventures.
So, personal experience. You've got a young family.
Yeah.
Have you taken your young family? I don't know this. I'm asking you a question I don't know. Have you taken the young family on a G adventure?
Not yet. Only because they're 6 and 8.
Right.
So the youngest age is 6. Our son will be 6 in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
So,
do you have is there an age limit?
Yeah. So it's 12 and up on most trips.
Okay. Right. Fair enough.
Not on the 18 to 39 trips. We do 18 for that. Could be a bit funny with a 12-year-old and we're going out, Koh San Road in Thailand, drinking buckets or something. Like
Been there.
Exactly. I think most of us have. But on the family trips, it tends to be 6 or 7 and up. And I think, just touching on that, I think it's a really cool idea that we've got these family trips because it's families traveling together. It's showing kids, these different destinations. And if you're a family like mine where, we've been fortunate enough to go and do Disney, on Thursday we're off to the Canaries to do our all-inclusive. That's our summer break this year. But to show them other things. When they're at the right age, maybe they're learning about it in school, they can go and see Costa Rica, see the wildlife. They still get a bit of a beach break in there if you do somewhere like Costa Rica. And educate them,
I agree with you. I mean, I'm not advocating you take your kids out of school, but let's be honest. There is so much opportunity for kids to learn on a product like G Adventures. If it beggars belief, doesn't it? You could go on forever and talk about this subject, but if you're ever taking the kids out for 2 or 3 days, and putting them on a G Adventure trip, they're going to come back enriched. I mean, not only that, it's this whole thing about sharing those experiences, isn't it? They're going to share it with other people.
Yeah.
And that's this whole thing about, you talk about the world, going finding different places, what G Adventures does. They'll be showing them things and experiencing things that, like you said, your children at the moment, they're not going to experience those things in Tenerife.
No.
But you take them on a G Adventure, then the chances are they're going to experience things that other people, children and families, have not experienced. Yeah. That's a good thing.
Well, I think it's a very good thing. And if it ties into their education, all right, tick, perfect. You've gone and seen a volcano in Costa Rica and you were learning about volcanoes. Yeah, that's great. But, just a quick example is, I'm from Australia, so even just taking the kids to Australia in April, when they came back, the teachers said, right, the two of you, up front of class, tell us about Australia. And I don't think of Australia as a novelty because we just went to my family house. We did go to a wildlife park, saw some kangaroos, of course, that's what you do. But, even just them coming back and sharing that with the classroom was a highlight. I mean, if I could take the kids next year to Borneo or Costa Rica or something, they'd blow the classroom's mind, wouldn't it?
Yeah, slightly. Yeah. Something got orangutans.
Yeah.
In Borneo. Listen, let me touch on this thing with Australia. Right? I've got to give it one of these. Right, this.
It's a boomerang if you're listening along.
Yeah, it's a boomerang. I mean, I'm not being funny. I don't know. If I threw this now, well, we certainly won't throw it outside here because it'd go through someone's car window.
maybe yours.
I'd be scared of throwing this on the field down the road. These sort of things, though, joking aside, if you go on a tour with G Adventures down to Australia, they're going to show you, I guess the guides are going to want to show you how these things work, because there is an art in there.
Oh, there is.
Apparently there's a...
Yeah, so you hold it on a bit of an angle like that. So
yeah?
Not flat, not vertical, about 45-degree angle.
Oh, my word.
We can't do it in here.
No.
Yeah, you give it a bit of a flick. So, look, I'm no pro, but I have done it before.
Do you make it work?
Yeah, we need a big field, though. You need, good 50 metres.
Yeah.
So, to make it come back. So...
I've never met anybody who's actually...
Don't ask me to do it now. But
it's stuck on the wall in my office because someone brought it back for me, so that's where it's going to stay. Otherwise, I'll be doing it permanent. But you've recently been on a trip to Peru.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, did you see Paddington?
Oh, well, I always try and sneak a picture of a Paddington toy or something to tell the kids I've seen Paddington. Yeah, seen him in deepest, darkest Peru. But yeah, this trip was a charity trip. It was a collaboration with members from across the travel industry. So we had some fantastic people join us. We're going to do it next year as well, so we'll share some details on that. But the whole idea is, what started as let's raise money for ABTA Lifeline to support the travel industry and those in times of need. 50-50 with Planetera, which is our non-profit partner, which supports communities around the world. And where it initially started as a fundraising piece, it actually became a connection piece. So, go back to 2019, we were climbing Kilimanjaro with Lisa McCauley. For anyone in the travel industry, you might know some of these names. So we had Lisa McCauley, we had Andy Harmer, we had Lucy Huxley, we had... so it was just fantastic to climb and get to know some of these people, and you build a little community on the trip. But the last trek was in Peru to a destination that, well, I understand if people haven't heard of, it was called Choqquequirao. Choqquequirao. Yep.
Okay.
Nothing to do with chocolate.
Okay.
But mind you, it'd be great if you got there and it was full of king.
So what's special about Choqquequirao?
So Choqquequirao is a site bigger than Machu Picchu.
Really?
Yep, bigger than Machu Picchu, but they haven't exposed it as much, and you have to walk there for 2 days and 2 days back.
Is it uphill?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you actually descend into a canyon deeper than the Grand Canyon, and then back out to get to it on the other side.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah.
That's proper heavy lifting stuff in there.
Yeah, it was. But what's interesting is when you get there, there's no one else there.
Not surprised.
I know.
Not put your chance of me down.
Well, so
Bloody hell there.
So we were running the numbers today, actually. So if you visit Choqquequirau, there's about 20 people a day will go there because you have to walk there. You have to put in the miles. You have to put in the steps to get there. Machu Picchu, beautiful site, really well established. That receives 5,600 people a day in peak season.
A day?
A day.
That's the size of a bloody cruise ship.
Yeah, in peak season. And so they'll stagger them throughout the day. There'll be the morning slot, the afternoon slot. So when you put those in comparison, they're both beautiful sites. I've been to Machu Picchu. I'd encourage everyone to go. But the satisfaction of arriving, a bit like Indiana Jones, if I'm honest, like thinking back to childhood.
I'm now getting that impression as well. I'm a bit interested in this now.
Yeah.
You got my attention. This is cool. So I'm just trying to get back. Like, you go to the pyramids in Egypt and it's just commercialised. There's all those people. I never thought of Machu Picchu as having that many people there. I just thought, correct, because that's a hell of a place to get to.
Oh, yeah.
But this is something, like you said, it is right out of Indiana Jones, isn't it? And Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
You know, this is special.
Yeah.
20 people.
I mean, we were the 20. So I think we over-indexed the numbers that day because we had 20 people and we saw about 10 wandering around.
Do you stay there?
No, we did have lunch there, but you stay nearby in a town.
Oh, okay.
And we did. Last year's trek was to the Lost City in Colombia, and again, 3 days walking, get there in the hot jungle, and then when you get there, I'm not selling you on doing next year's, am I, by your facial expression?
No, just saying. You know, I'm trying to get my head around this. So, I mean, there's nothing there, isn't really? But there is, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
What is that aura, that special thing about that place? So you get there is nothing there, no one there. Facilities, that sort of stuff. Is there any infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, there were some toilets.
Yeah, okay.
You know, they've set those things up, and along the way, on both this year's trek and last year's trek, there's little towns that were either there originally or have popped up to support the trek. So, yeah, flushing Western toilets.
Okay.
There was beer for us to celebrate afterwards.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's come on the back of a mule, and then it's probably, I don't recall it being refrigerated, but a beer's a beer. A beer's a beer when you've had a great day and you want to celebrate.
Not half. Well, it's so good to hear that story, because it's something you've experienced. I mean, we are at the extreme end of the spectrum here, where, you know, apart from doing the Everest base camp, I guess, we are at the extreme end. But it's that, I wanted to pick up on that thing you talked about, building relationships and that, because I guess these are the people who you make friends with, and they long-lasting friendships. Do you get a lot of people who actually come back and do tours, or they get in touch with each other and say, we're going to go here, do you want to join us?
Yeah. Not only just from this G-Trek, but it's quite common that travellers that go together on a trip will come back and say, you know what, like, we had such a great time, we really bonded. And that's the thing, I think there's this perception when you join a trip, oh, they're strangers. Okay, they're strangers for a couple of days, but then you're all like-minded, you're usually all on the same wavelength. Yeah. And they just become best mates. And then you'll end up going and staying with them in Australia. You'll go and stay with someone somewhere else, or you'll meet up again together. And it's really not uncommon for people to come back and say, look, I loved that trip. I love spending time with those people. We're all now going to go away and, I don't know, do somewhere else in the world.
Wow. While you're out and about, you no doubt you used to collect some artifacts. You must have been some places. Is there anything that you brought back that you know, from some trips that you go on, I brought this useless piece of stuff, but actually it's got a story behind it. You must be able to see some places. You're not just going to walk down the street and buy a fridge magnet, are you?
Well, I'm partial to a fridge magnet, but the last fridge wasn't magnetic, so I stopped buying fridge magnets. You know, I was partial to patches there for a while. That's a bit boring. So, but yeah, putting them on the. Well, I think for me, I try and get some food. I try and get some coffee. Try and get some tea. I remember leaving Peru and leaving with coca tea.
Really?
Now,
coca tea or cocoa tea?
Coca tea. Now, coca tea is derived from the coca plant, which can be used to make other products. And I don't want this podcast to
no, we've not got any
to be I don't want this podcast to be blacklisted. But I thought, right, I'll bring this back. I got to American immigration at the time, and they said, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, coca tea." I said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Australia." I said, "Oh, they can deal with you."
Is that right? They just, it's not enough.
So, well, I should say when it's coca tea, there's nothing bad about it. No. But you can't buy it in most countries outside of Peru.
It's like when we did a trip, we went over to China, and we went to Zhuzhou, which is up the top on the Tibetan border. And we did the 9 Villages Valley. And, like you say, experience there, meeting families, having lunch with families. This whole G-Adventure thing, I've had a snippet of what it can be like. And it is very, very special. No question about that.
Oh, yeah. It's the memories, it's, I'm going to go off on a great trip with the kids in a couple of days. We're going to go off to an all-inclusive. I don't know if I'll be able to remember that in quite the same way as I will some of the other experiences. And that's what I want to bring to the kids. I want to give the kids those experiences in the future, and would encourage anyone to go and try this style of travel just to, and maybe you want to dip your toe, like I said, in the Maldives sailing. So maybe it's not going all the way to Kazakhstan or going to Colombia or anywhere like that. Maybe you're starting off with Italy. We've got trips in Italy where you just stay in an Italian farmhouse for a week, learn to make pasta, drink wine.
I've seen that because you obviously, I need to come and see the product at some point. And I was briefly gazing through. I thought, what would Mrs. Nuttall like to do? I thought, what's she like? She loves Italy.
Yeah,
she's absolutely passionate about Italy. And I looked through and I saw that, and actually going right down to the south of Italy.
Yep.
And past Bari and further down, and I looked at that. I thought that sounds really interesting, because what you've said there is actually right. A lot of people can be put off saying, I don't want to be touring around. But actually, you can do a G-Adventure and stay in one place. Yeah. And actually just go out. And it's just about immersion, isn't it? Destination immersion.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah, so whether that's the local living in Italy, or we have it in Ecuador where you go into the rainforest, the local living is a bit like an Airbnb, I guess, where, you think, okay, an Airbnb is going to be in the middle of a town, or it's going to have that culture, and then from that one base, you'll go off and do day trips. Or even when you're talking about unpacking once, we go to Antarctica, we go to the Arctic with our vessel that's only 128 passengers, or sailing around the Galapagos is somewhere that's, 16 passengers, small vessel, unpack once. And it's that immersion. It's that each morning before breakfast, I'm going to go snorkeling, and I'm going to see the sea lions, and I'm going to see, the Sally Lightfoot crabs and all of that. Jump back on board, have a little sail, and then do the same again.
Have you ever been to Antarctica?
I have. I was fortunate enough to go in 2017.
Really?
Yep.
Come on, give us spill the beans. What happened? What was it? What was that experience like? Because I spoke to people who've been and, they went down, is it Drake's Passage?
Yeah.
Did you have a good one or not?
Well, so they call it's either a Drake Shake or a Drake Lake.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Yeah. So you want a lake.
Yeah, dead right water lake.
Yeah. So it's really rough water. You got the water around the bottom of the planet going round, not being stopped by anything. So it can be whipped up by
water going around the planet, not being stopped by anything.
Yeah, look, that's a non-scientific way of saying there's no landmass at the bottom above Antarctica.
Right.
So if you end up with a bit of a, like the wind and everything blowing,
yes,
nothing stops it. It just keeps moving.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
In fact,
there we are.
So, well, tell us, Antarctica then, you got there.
Phenomenal. Like, I think something that a lot of people have said is when you come back from Antarctica, you feel a little bit more of an environmentalist. And I don't mean that I've been able to go and get an electric car or anything like that, but I think you just suddenly feel like, wow, this is a location that we humans haven't messed up yet. It is just in its natural form. A lot of care is taken for ships not to arrive at the same place at the same time. So if anyone's ever been on a wildlife drive and then they find a lion, you might be, there's 20 vehicles sometimes.
They're all radioing.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone wants to see the lion. They want to tick the box. But when you're in Antarctica, all the ships talk to each other and say, right, I'm going to go here tomorrow, and it has to be planned. And then that way you get that wild experience, but you don't feel like you're in a theme park. It really does feel remote.
I can understand then why it's one of the most popular destinations at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Arctic, in many ways, I was fortunate enough to do the Arctic in 2014, I think.
You've done both?
Yeah. I'm bipolar. I was fortunate enough to do it. I think in some ways I preferred the Arctic, and the reason is that nothing's guaranteed. So if you're in Antarctica, they'll say, tomorrow we're going to go to that beach and we'll probably see rockhopper penguins because there's a rookery, there's a colony. You'll go there, you'll see the penguins. Still fantastic. But in the Arctic, when you see a polar bear and it's 2 a.m. and then the ship's captain or the expedition leader will say, "Okay, all right, everyone. So we've seen a polar bear. So put on your best pajamas. If you sleep naked, please put on some clothes. You come up on deck. It's a midnight sun, so you'll be able to see it. And then it's that moment of it wasn't guaranteed. And then when you do get to see it, I feel like that's a bit more special. If you're going to go to the zoo, you know what you're going to see. I mean, you might be lucky if the lion's not sleeping and you get to see it, etc. But when you actually spot it, I'd liken it to, maybe tigers in India. They're very elusive, and if you do see them, it's that great experience.
Normally you get to see them from the Ganges, don't you? It's not something you normally see out in the jungle if you were out on foot.
No.
You wouldn't get to see them. I agree, extremely rare. Listen, before we finish, this has been brilliant. I mean, the last few minutes just talking about both the poles. I've learned something, I'm sure our people have, but certainly the whole G-Adventure experience is something I'm keen at some point to try. No doubt about it.
You must.
No, I know, I will. I just want to thank you for just bringing it alive. It's this planet is a great planet. Like you just said, despite all the problems and the differences, you can travel with G-Adventures and meet such a wonderful array of people, see such amazing places, great food, local traditions, giving something back. I think it's been a really interesting, 25 minutes that we've had, Stu. I really appreciate it. But you brought some biscuits in here. These got to be Aussie biscuits.
They have. Look, I've heard for as long as I've been here, over a decade, people have said, Tim Tams are penguin biscuits. I'm not having it. I'm not having that Tim Tams are penguins. There's a lot of variations, and this is not a plug for any particular supermarket, but they've just come out with a UK only, I won't name them, they've come out with a UK only sweet and salty.
Is that a salty caramel?
Well, you got salted caramel, you got a normal caramel, then you've got this sweet and salty. So
A bit like popcorn.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Which one have I got here?
I think you've got the regular.
Have I?
Yeah, you got the regular.
Not like a penguin.
Oh, you're going to trigger me.
Well, it's my pillow, don't it get going?
Right. Yeah. Don't make me use this boomerang.
Listen, yeah, good actually. But the trouble is, they get everywhere.
They drop it. I'm going to let you in on something. So,
go on, here we go.
The Tim Tam Slam.
This is top tip.
The top tip. Have you
the top tip on our podcast. Go on then.
Have you heard of a Tim Tam Slam?
Sounds like WWF.
Well, almost.
Tim Tam Slam, go on.
So you bite off the opposite corners of a Tim Tam, and then you draw your coffee, your hot chocolate, or your tea through the Tim Tam. That's a Tim Tam Slam.
You put in the leg. So,
no.
Break a corner off.
Yeah.
Dunk it in at an angle.
Yep.
And suck.
Yeah, it's like straw. Yep.
Dear Bo.
I'm not joking. You can look it up online afterwards. It's called Tim Tam Slam, and then it will soften a little bit, and then your actual Tim Tam will smell.
Listen,
nice.
if any of our viewers want to participate in a Tim Tam Slam, send them in to the Travel Village group, and we will publicise some of them on our Facebook page or whatever, so you can have a look at some of the successes or not of a Tim Tam Slam.
I know. I'd have some kitchen towel on hand just in case.
Brilliant, top man.
Right.
Thanks ever so much.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks for watching our most recent podcast, Now Boarding, with fabulous Stu Danley from G-Adventures. Hope you've had a great time. We certainly have, and I hope you've learned a lot. If you want to know more about G-Adventures, give us a shout at the Travel Village group. Thanks ever so much for watching and listening. See you soon.